What's going on, everyone? Welcome into this week's draft video. In this video, we're going to be looking at 8 draft sleepers that I think are underrated at this point in the draft process. We're going to look at their average rank, which is going to be based on 10 separate mock drafts or big boards. Shout out to my guy Christian for putting that together for me. And then I'm going to look at my big board rank for them right now. We're going to have a big board article released at some point, probably within the next 10 days or so, where I will have my big board 1 through 60 next to Eric's big board, and you can see some of the prospects that were higher on or lower on and whatnot. If you're a Blazer fan and missed any of my player reviews, there is a playlist on the channel page. Also, check the community tab for a mailbag question prompt so that you can ask me a question for Monday's mailbag. Follow me on Twitter, link down in the description box below, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Leave a like, it helps me out, and let's jump into 8 underrated draft prospects. The first draft prospect that I think is a little bit overrated is Dyson Daniels. I have him 10th on my big board. His average rank was 13th. I've seen multiple mocks have him a little bit lower than that, but I like Dyson Daniels as a big guard that can defend. I think he can guard 1 through 3, maybe 1 through 4 defensively. That is a great attribute to have in the NBA, provide some switchability on a team. And then he's also shown that he can be a playmaker and set up his teammates and be a bit of a point forward, or be a third guard with some size that could hypothetically play next to a point guard or a shooting guard. I think he's crafty finishing within the lane. The one knock on him is his 3-point shot. He did not shoot well during his season with the G League Ignite, but I don't think his form is broken. I think he actually has a pretty good textbook form. A lot of his misses seem close. It seemed like he was short on a lot of them, so I think he will end up being a good enough 3-point shooter to get defenses to respect it, and then I think that'll open up his game from a playmaking standpoint, and defensively he can get the job done as well. So I think he's going to be an all-around player that you can fit in numerous roles, that you can play at 3 positions, that can defend for them, and therefore I have him 10th on my big board, and I think he's being slept on a little bit. The second prospect that I have as a sleeper is Malachi Brandon, who I have at 9th on my big board. His average rank is 17th. I like Malachi Brandon because I think he has one of the highest floors at this point in the draft. I think he will at least just be a solid 3-and-D player, but I think he has the upside to do more. Has a picture-perfect pull-up mid-range jump shot, is decently quick, solid first step, can get to the rim, can finish around there, so I think he has a chance to be a 3-level scorer who can play some defense. And then I think he's also shown some playmaking flashes, some passing flashes, so if he ends up in the right system that can tap into that, he could be the steal of the draft in a role where he's a starting 2 or a starting 3 potentially. He's a little undersized for that position, but I still think he can play it, and he could be one of those guys that can score at a very high level, defend at a high level, and make some plays for others and get to the rim. Those sort of guys are generally pretty dang good NBA players. Therefore, I have him 9th on my big board. I think he is really being slept on. The third prospect I have is Nikola Jokic. I have him 17th on my big board. His average rank is 21st. I like Jokic because he has size and he has skill, and that combination is always intriguing, especially in a young player. He's 6'10" and can handle the ball and can shoot the ball a little bit, do some things off the dribble, and he can make plays for others. And if he doesn't end up being a good NBA 3-point shooter, then I could see him being a bust in the mold of like a Zanin Musa. I don't know if any of you remember him, but Jokic is just an intriguing guy given his blend of size and then ball handling and skill. If you haven't watched him play, I definitely suggest that you go and check out some highlights packages or 2, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's pretty evident once you watch him play a little bit. So decent first step, decent quickness, perimeter guy with some size. If he puts on more muscle, I could see him playing the 4 and being a matchup problem at that position. The fourth sleeper I have is Umar Zhang, who I have at 14 on my big board. The average rank for him was 27th, and he's a guy who's risen a ton lately, so his average rank might be some outdated mock drafts or big boards just not catching up to what his stock is looked at now, because some other sources have him ranked around the same area I have him ranked. But this dude is extremely intriguing to me as well, as a guy who's 6'9", can handle the ball, has flashes of playmaking, looks like he could end up being a good NBA passer, a good secondary playmaker. Defensively, I think he has a lot of upside. I think he has decent lateral quickness, decent foot speed, solid length. The guy he reminds me of, and he's from France, that's why he has the French flag behind him, but the guy he reminds me of is Nicolas Batum. And if you remember Nick Batum, there was a lot of talk about all the upside he had, but he never seemed to have that it factor, that killer mentality as a scorer. Umar Zhang is very, very young, and I think his upside is a lot like Nick Batum's was, but maybe he has that it factor. He's playing in the NBL, playing for the New Zealand Breakers. He had a really good end to his season, has some potential as a scorer. He likes the floater, has a solid floater, but maybe likes it a little bit too much. I think the key for him is going to be putting on weight, getting a little bit stronger, and getting a little better attacking the basket and finishing on the interior. I just think he has a ton of upside given his combination of length and size, defensive potential, and then his ability to handle the ball, pass, and I think he could end up being a pretty okay jump shooter as well. He could be a guy that could knock down some threes off the dribble and off of pick and rolls. So that sort of player is definitely the mold of a sleeper who could be the steal of the draft. Next up, we got Christian Koloko, who I have ranked as 19 on my big board. His average rank is 33. I just don't understand why rankings are lower on him compared to a guy like a Mark Williams. I don't understand what Mark Williams can do that Christian Koloko can't. He's a really good rim protecting big, had a terrific season last year for Arizona, and then he's also a decent athlete, a decent finisher. He's turned himself from a horrible free throw shooter into a solid one, so maybe that gives him some potential to become a good three-point shooter given how much his free throw has progressed. He's also shown some flashes of being a solid passer as well. At the very least, I think he's going to be a good rim protector who has good enough foot speed to play in any sort of pick and roll scheme and be competitive when switched out onto maybe some smaller, quicker perimeter players. So a good defensive big with solid rebounding and good finishing ability and a good lob target. I think that is his floor, and that's a pretty high floor for a guy whose average rank is right around the turn of the first and second rounds. But I think he has a little bit more offensive potential than some people give him credit for, and I think people discount him a little bit too much because of him being older than some prospects this portion of the draft. So therefore I have him 19th on my big board. I think he's definitely a first round pick. Next up, we got David Roddy, who I have 29th on my big board. His average rank is 42nd. And this guy's unique, was a star at Colorado State. He was the main reason they ended up being a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. Didn't pan out in the NCAA tournament. He struggled in his first round game against the University of Michigan, but the guy can handle the ball. He can pass the ball and he can shoot the ball. Crafty on the inside, knows how to use his body. He's like 6'5", 6'6", and 250 pounds or something like that. He's built like a linebacker, like a football player. He's a sleeper because I think if you can get him into an NBA conditioning program and get him to lose 25 to 30 pounds, you could have a really, really good player on your hands. Because for his size and his weight, he's pretty dang quick. And he knows how to dribble and he can shoot. And I think if you're able to have him lose 25, 30 pounds so he's even quicker, I think he could be a solid defensive player and offensively just be a guy who can be a secondary creator and knock down threes and attack the rim. That's definitely a sleeper in my opinion. So I have him 29th on my big board. It hinges upon him getting lighter and therefore getting quicker and being able to keep up with the pace and the speed of the NBA game. Next up, we have Orlando Robinson out of Fresno State. His average rank was 51st. I have him 30th on my big board simply because he's a 6'11", 7-foot center. I don't know what his exact measurements are, but he's a center who is shifty with the ball, decently athletic, solid first step, can handle the ball a little bit, can pass the ball for a center. Offensively, he might be the most skilled center outside of the lottery. You got guys like a Walker Kessler, Mark Williams, and Christian Koloko who are safer picks, better defensively, but offensively, I think Orlando Robinson is better than all of them. Some of the question marks come on the defensive end, and I'll be quite honest, I haven't watched enough of his footage to really figure out why he struggles defensively. That's just what scouting reports say, but he looks decently agile and looks like he has decent foot speed offensively, so if you can tap into that on the defensive end, I don't see why he couldn't be at least a serviceable defensive player. I just think when you find a center with his combination of passing, playmaking, ball handling, and shooting ability, those types of guys have enough potential, in my opinion, to take them around the end of the first round or early second. I don't think those guys should fall to 51 or the late second round. I think he's a sleeper, and that's why I have him 30th on my big board. And the last prospect I have as a sleeper is Vince Williams Jr. out of VCU. A lot of rankings don't have him going drafted, and I don't understand why. I think he could be a solid role player pickup in the middle of the second round. He's a guy who shoots the three ball well, can pass it a little bit. Not the best ball handler. He's going to definitely have to improve his ball handling, but that's something you can teach. But I think he projects at least as a 3-and-D guy. And 3-and-D guys who have been in college multiple years tend to go underrated, in my opinion, in the draft. And he's a senior coming out of VCU, so he's one of the older prospects in this draft. I just think that he can be a knockdown three-point shooter in the NBA and then be good defensively as well. He's a solid defensive player. So I think that's a pretty high floor and a pretty safe pick there in the second round. And then I think he has upside to maybe be a little bit of a shot creator as well. He just has to work on his ball handling. But he has a solid body, solid frame. He's an okay athlete as well. So if you're able to kind of develop him as a playmaker from the perimeter offensively, you could have a serious sleeper on your hands. So that's why I have him 42nd on my big board. Anyway, that wraps up 8 sleepers in this year's NBA draft. Let me know what you think about any of these prospects. Let me know if you think I missed on a prospect and should have included them in this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.